Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Cheers PA Beer Talk. I am very excited about our guest today, so let's get right into it. I'm joined by Mike LaRosa, the Chief Brewing Operations Manager. How do you title yourself, Mike?
Director of Brewing Operations, but I really do everything from washing glassware to sweeping the floor and everything else.
A man of the people. I love it.
A man of the people.
New Trail Brewing in Williamsport, PA. You cannot find, in my opinion, someone working harder in the last 2.5 years to really make a name for themselves statewide, especially coming out of Williamsport, which is not typically known for being a brewing destination. Pretty heavy in Philly, but that's where your background is, correct?
Yeah, I grew up outside of Philadelphia in the suburbs in Downingtown, so
that's great.
I started brewing in the Philly region in King of Prussia. So I mean, I've been around town for a while.
Would you consider Brian one of like your mentors there at Rock Bottom? I had great relationship and experience with him at Sterling Pig. I really appreciate the way that he looks at making a complete beer instead of just looking at what's popular. And it seems that his approach is somewhat reflective in how you have made your approach in brewing. Is that
for sure? Yeah, absolutely. So Brian was extremely influential in my early years in brewing. I mean, Brian is very technically talented and can make lots of great styles of beer. So having him as a mentor early on, I spent 2 years with him, and he was my world. I mean, my entire paradigm was built around the way that he approached beer. So I think ultimately a lot of the ways that I approach beer are fundamentally the ways that he probably approaches beer as well.
So good foundations leading you to have the skills to kind of adapt and then really start to play with different things as you get more confident in those skills.
Yeah, confident in the skills, and you have your own ideas. Everybody has their own ideas about everything. And then I spent a lot of time through a lot of other breweries with big personalities and very talented brewers and owners. So I think who I am and who New Trail is has come a lot systemically from the people that I've worked with.
Absolutely. Taking a little bit from each place along the way really helps you find, your own path. I don't want to say trail because it could seem a little bit too on the nose, but how did you find your approach to New Trail? Was it something that you wanted to be based in Williamsport? Were you looking for just opportunities anywhere?
No. So I had left my most recent conventional employer. I worked with Tired Hands. I'd built the fermenteria and a few other locations for them, and I worked really hard and got that business really stable. But I left and I started a consulting company, specifically working with startup breweries, pretty much bringing them from business plan through about the first month of their operation. And my partners at New Trail, or my clients at the time at New Trail, were looking for somebody to come in and be the head brewer or the director of brewing operations or whatever the title was going to be at the time. So they were looking for somebody with the type of knowledge I had to do it. And I was like, I'm not really interested in doing that. Like I sort of like this consulting thing. And they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I like working with them. They were one of my first clients. So I sort of became very enticed, or I don't know, it was like a romantic sort of like I have to see this succeed, blah blah blah, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with New Trail, so I stayed on. I still consult, but not nearly as much as I used to.
Is that something then their interest in the outdoors came from your partners, or is that a shared vision from everyone?
It's a shared vision. So they are very much outdoors people, but so am I. I grew up hiking, biking, kayaking. I am an Eagle Scout. So as a Boy Scout, I was outside camping once a month. I spent summer after summer I worked at a Boy Scout camp for 12 years. 12 years. So I mean, the core of New Trail is very genuine, of being very centered in the idea of being in the outdoors.
Well, that's how I found your beer. It was probably 2018, and my cousin, who is a big trail runner, hands me a can of SOB, and he was like, "Man,
Yeah.
I just did this race, and it's a
Oh
new
yeah, here in
brewery
the
that."
Heiner.
Yeah, he was like, "It's some new
Yeah.
brewery that's opening up. You got to check this out." And
Yeah.
I was blown away because at that point, you weren't finding many people that were still making American IPAs that were just clean, hop balance, but with nice profile
For sure.
IPAs, and it was delightful.
Yeah.
And I really got into it and dug in from there. I enjoy the hazy stuff that you do, but I have to say, recently I got into a can of rolled oats, and it was tremendous, man. That was just like the sleeping bag for the winter that I needed. It was
rolled oats is one of my favorite beers that we've produced, and so is SOB. And we've done an American IPA since in one of our expedition packs called Confluence, which was a collab with East Branch out of Downingtown, and it sort of like re-sparked my love for American IPA. Like, oh yeah, we can have this like really clean, crisp bitterness experience with, a very balanced aromatic, hop aroma. So
it's interesting that you mentioned the expedition pack, because to me, looking at their second pack, so you've done 8 different collaborations. You're very attuned to who the brewery is and what their style is, because when I think of East Branch, I think about their Dunkels and their alt beers, and the technically very clean, beautiful German style beers. So you juxtapose that to like an Imprint and what they're known for, and that really comes through in the deep backcountry. You do a really nice job of collaborating and showcasing what your partners are really good at, in my opinion. And it really comes through as still being a new trail John, I guess you should call it. But it's nice to see the two coming together and both being present in that collaboration.
It's a lot of fun doing these expedition packs, but it is like herding cats. Like, I like myself, but I can't imagine trying to deal with 4 of me every month. And I'm like, well, I guess we're going to try it. So,
well, I think it's a really smart idea, because I mean, this state, when I moved here, no one was selling cases or anything less than a case. So you had to get the mix pack. And it seemed like for the first time in my life, there were so many different mix pack options. I'd never seen them anywhere else. It just was always, if you want a beer, you buy a 6-pack or 12-pack. And it was just that. But to have such a quantity, breweries needed to do something to mix it up. And I don't know who started it or where it came from, but it's such a great idea. And I'm glad that you're continuing it as you get more and more settled in at New Trail.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody else is doing anything like this at the moment.
No, not at all.
I think that the closest sort of exercise to the expedition pack would be like Beer Camp Across America with Sierra Nevada, which, Ken Grossman's a visionary.
But yeah, that's such a huge project, in like the undertaking of what that's like. I can't imagine even doing it on a small level like here in PA. What you're doing, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, Trek 3 comes out next week, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll be teasing that here on social media probably this weekend. And that's with Sterling Pig, who we've just talked about, Levante, Evergreen, and Voodoo.
Oh wow! Yeah. Some great breweries in there.
Some heavy hitters.
Absolutely
heavy hitters. So
the thing about your mix packs and the expedition, are you going to start doing more of those? Is that going to be, because it seemed like the first one was not a while ago, but a couple months, and now are you going to start stacking them faster and faster? Is that more a shift in the plan because of packaged beer being more important to the business right now, with bars and restaurants still?
Are we going to do more expedition packs or mixed packs, or?
Yeah, or you said the third one's coming out soon.
Yeah, so the goal for expedition pack is to do one the original goal was every month, but I think it'll actually end up being close to every 6 weeks, just based off of lead time. So it's going to be like every month and a half to 2 months or so. So like we have one set for April, but May, what we were considering like the May pack might actually end up in June. So, it's an undertaking.
Yeah, incredibly ambitious, man. And I'm super excited about it, that you're that committed to doing collaborations that are showcasing different breweries? Because here in South Central PA, we don't get to see things from Love City or from.
Well, that was a lot of the idea, was
Yeah.
to try to help some of the smaller breweries with our distribution network. But I mean, we're also very interested in collaborating with guys that have larger distribution networks and larger footprints than us as well. So I mean, the idea has just been about it's been a rising tide sort of mentality. So.
Absolutely, yeah, it really works, and the varieties that you're putting in there are tremendous. So I have to congratulate you on a brilliant idea, and appreciate you sticking with it and seeing it through.
Yeah, so we'll see how long we make it, but
well, I'm here for the journey.
Yeah.
Now, one of the main things that we ask of anyone that joins us here is, what was the first beer that you really sunk into? You're like, this beer is different. I want to know more. I want to be more about this.
Oh, interesting. So I grew up in Downingtown, and so Victory obviously is from Downingtown, and I remember going to Victory with my dad when it was a small, like 2,000-3,000 square foot space. There was like pool tables, and he was drinking. It had to have been Hop Devil or Hop Wallop or whatever. He was always very much into craft beer, and he'd take me to play pool with him, and we'd play pool, and I'd drink root beer. I was like enamored with the root beer Victory, which is still very good.
Oh yeah.
So I grew up in a house that was very craft centric. I mean, we're talking about the 90s, so craft centric would have been Victory. He was very interested in imports, so we drank, he drank a lot of Newcastle Brown Ale. Lager was a staple at the house. And I'd say, like, when we were stealing beers to have high school parties, a lot of the times we were stealing, Victory, we were stealing Newcastle. And I became really enamored with pills very early on. I was always interested in Prima Pills. I still say to this day, Braumeister is probably one of the best Pilsners I've ever had from Victory. But we were, Moosehead and export Pilsners. So I don't know. Is that sort of like what you're asking here? I mean, I very much very early became interested in craft lager, and as I've gone through my career, I've tried to remain true to that as much as I can. But we produce what we want to drink, but also what's going to sell too. So
it's a tough balance, absolutely. And you guys definitely toe that line. Was the intention to be a packaging brewery on the scale you were from the beginning? Because it seemed like as soon as I had that first SOB can in my head, it was not that long before I saw you in distributors down here. I was seeing you in grocery stores. Like, you guys got into places very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Wholesale was always the model at New Trail. Being in North Central Pennsylvania and Williamsport, we just don't have the population base to, be a hype brewery, right? Like I can't. Nobody's driving to Williamsport to lay out lawn chairs and wait 8 hours for beer. So we knew that the best thing for us was going to be to try to bring the beauties of Great North Central Pennsylvania to them. So
absolutely, I don't think we need any more lines, though. I mean, if we're speaking frankly, you built out one of the hypiest of hypes, and like, it's beautiful what they have going on there, but we don't need lines everywhere. So
it works for some people, it doesn't.
Yeah,
so
I think I think different strokes. It's
different strokes for different folks. And, I've sold $25 4-packs to people that have waited 8 hours, and I've also sold very similar beer to them at $12 at Wegmans. So
you can dress it up for a party, or you can just hang out on the farm. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's whatever you like. So
would you do you have any like professional peaks, any like moments where you were just like, man, I can't believe I'm getting to do this, like where you look around and you can actually
every day, I feel like. No, I mean, I'm trying to be modest as much as I can. Like, I was so excited when I got to work with Brian at Rock Bottom. Like when I started my career, I was like, this is it. Like, this is my step, into being a brewer, and I get to work with, you know, one of the most well-respected brewers in our area, and, you know, I'll just like sweep the floors just to be able to talk to this guy every day. And then, you know, I go on and I, you know, get to be the head brewer at a startup brewery at like Saucony Creek and do that. And I'm like, man, this is good. It's not going to get any better. Knowing that one day I want to go to my breweries, but like, how can it be any better than this moment? And then you go and do it again. Like I did it as the head brewer at Kane, bringing a brewery from being 1,000 barrels a year to 5,000 barrels a year. And it's like, man, this is so cool. I get to produce like, it's honestly like head high at Kane is, I think, one of the best American IPAs available in the country. And then, you know, it happens again. I got headhunted by Gene to open Tired Hands. You know, I happened to walk in the brewery one day and he looked at me and he goes, "You got a minute? You want to talk about this?" Like, I was like, you know, like butterflies, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get to do like one of the most, like you said, hypiest breweries in the area. Like I'm gonna get to do this. So it's just like every time I don't know.
Maybe but you've done it though. That's the thing. Is like, I know you said you want to be modest about it, but man, I was looking over, because, you know, this is the first time you and I have ever had a conversation, but just looking over where you've been and what you've done, you've worked and done some amazing projects along the way. And to be able to carry this kind of humility to this point is a testament to basically who you are as a person, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's uncomfortable for me to talk about myself as like you know, I don't know. I'm just a man. Like I'm just a, you know, to me, I'm still that, you know, 18-year-old kid that's brewing on my parents' stovetop. Like,
man, what was that first boil over like? Like, did you get almost thrown out of the house, or did you get it cleaned up in time?
So my dad was a home brewer, actually. He was a home brewer before I was born. He actually brewed barley wine it was like the month that I was born or something like that. And he put a case in the basement. It's in those old, like really hard Budweiser cases that have like the deep in flip tops on them.
Yeah.
And I always saw the case in the laundry room. Didn't ever really know what it was. And I came to my dad when I was 17 or 18. And I said to him, I'm like, "Dad, I'm really interested in this idea of home brewing." He's like, "I've been waiting for you to say this for, you know, since the day you were born." And he hadn't brewed. That might have been the last beer that he had ever home brewed. He's like, "I have beer in the basement that I brewed for you for when you had this conversation with me." Yeah. So.
Dude, that right there is a peak moment. Oh man, I got goosebumps. That was amazing.
Yeah. So.
Well, it sounds like your old man was a huge influence and
for sure,
dude. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Does he?
Both my parents are, but.
Do you still get to brew it all with him? Is he? Are you gonna have a Father's Day collaboration sometime?
You know, I don't know that I've ever actually brewed a beer with my dad at a commercial brewery. I'd have to ask him. It's been, you know, at this point I'm over 2,500 batches over my career or whatever. I couldn't even count them at this point. Yeah. But I'd have to ask him if he's ever been around for a brew day. But he's always been around everywhere I've been. My parents both always stop by. And my mom was always very influential on my beer career as well. So
that's excellent.
Yeah.
Do you miss beer festivals? Because I gotta say, I don't really. That's been one of the few silver linings this past year, is just that kind of taking the sting out of just the festival season and the circuit of just the same shenanigans in and out. I miss the people that
I would kill somebody to bitch about being at a beer fest.
Okay, leave it at that.
Yeah, like you know, I miss normal life.
Yes, yeah, that, and if that's a trade-off of returning to normal life, then bring it on.
Yeah.
What would you say is your last meal? If you were choosing, you seem to be someone that's interested in ingredients, and does that translate into your eating?
I'm a big eater.
Yeah.
My last meal, that's a tough one. Probably a cold lobster roll.
So you're cold over hot.
I'm cold over hot. I like hot, but I prefer cold.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lobster roll. Either way, it's going down.
Either way, it's still lobster.
Yeah, but A fresh, crisp, cold lobster roll.
I could eat a fresh, crisp, cold lobster roll, I think, every day for the rest of my life.
That's pretty impressive. I go a different direction in that just give me oysters. Just give me all the oysters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just let's go
Raw,
all day.
cold?
Yeah. I mean, I like the cold ones.
Yeah.
The challenge with oysters, especially since I moved here from the South, is that it's hard to find and really trust. So it's been less of an availability, but I was hoping you were going to go with a salted nut roll and just, be a true Brew Life guy.
Oh, no. I mean, I like salted nut roll, but I'm not gonna.
I mean, 2,500 batches. I'm sure you've seen.
That might be way low. I'd have to even. I just pulled a number, but.
So, is there any artists that are banned in your brewery? Like, is there any music that you're like, you know what, we're not listening to that? Or on the other side, is there something that has to be on the brew list?
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah. So I run a pretty tight. We run Pandora at the brewery, but I run a tight music program there. It stems with Arctic Monkeys and it's very like industrial garage rock, I guess would be the way that I describe it. But I always joke with the tasting room staff, like trying to teach them, like, definitely thumbs down things that are the wrong thing. I'm like, and I will fire you if Jimmy Buffett is on the radio. Just like trying to
just give them boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yeah. It's like an invisible fence, but for the tasting room staff.
Right.
Like if we cross this line, and
don't get me wrong, I like Jimmy Buffett, but it's like in our space, it's very industrial. It's open. It's loud. It's like, this is not the place for Jimmy Buffett. It's not the place for Dave Matthews. Like, we want hard guitar, very driving beat music, and it's not too heavy.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I appreciate any brewery experience as a patron that they care about all five senses. Where that you can tell that it's curated. And when you said industrial garage rock, I'm like, well, you have the most amazing industrial garage. I'm gonna hang out there all day long.
Right.
And to fit that vibe, it all comes together in a way that it all works. And
for sure.
It's nice that you have that holistic view of what you're doing and your whole space. So Jimmy Buffett, not allowed.
Not allowed.
Good deal. So it sounds like then you pick the music for all of your brew days.
Oh no! So the guys, they listen to everything back there. So I got a team of 15 guys on the production floor, I'd say, between brewing and packaging and delivery and driving. And and those guys, one day it could be K-pop, the next day it's Talking Heads, the next day it might be Rage Against the Machine, and then you move on and it's like 2000s hip hop. Like, it's whatever they're feeling, whatever makes them happy. So
absolutely. So we're getting close to the end here. So real quick, do you have anything coming up that you want to talk about or promote? Yeah,
for sure. So we have Expedition Pack, like I said, it's going to be released to Wholesale and at our brewery on it'll be the week of March 17th.
So we have the second one here on the screen. This one is probably finding its way out of circulation right now. I know
pretty much, yeah. Came
across one a few weeks ago, and I haven't seen one since. So it was a delightful treat, and I'm really looking forward to number 3.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be, like I said, we're going to be producing with Sterling Pig. It's going to be a Schwarzbier. Yeah.
Oh, my heart.
Yeah, right. Levante will be a hazy IPA. Evergreen's a hazy double IPA, and Voodoo is a imperial stout with vanilla, pecans, and coconut. It's a German chocolate cake inspired stout.
Delightful.
Yeah.
I was wondering if because when I go to Voodoo, it's either the stouts or some of their Belgians. I mean, they're making some of delightful Belgian beer that you don't see as much the style, and I understand why.
For sure.
But it was nice to see a tap list that's weighted heavily between 8 and 10%, and done artfully. It's quite nice.
Absolutely.
Really looking forward to that German chocolate cake now.
Yeah,
ready for some lunch. So you're available on your website and people can find you at the tap room. You guys are still keeping regular hours there.
Yep.
And then in standard distribution, you should check distributors as well as grocery stores.
Yep. Distributors, grocery stores, and whatever bars and restaurants are still open.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hopefully we're seeing, I'm going to start seeing more of those.
I think so.
Last question here. What, if possible, does your off day look like? Do you ever get an off day, and what do you do to kind of decompress, to get outside?
Oh, geez. So in the summer, I really love to kayak. I kayak the Loyal Sock, which is the local creek to us, probably about once a week. I was doing it twice a week. Not last summer, but the summer before. I also really enjoy boating. So like, if I can travel to see my family, my grandfather has a whaler, my uncle has a sailboat, but I also really enjoy riding my motorcycle.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, I do appreciate your time. I know that you're in a special secret location in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I wish you best of luck on your travels, and
Thank
you for your time today here on Cheers PA Beer Talk.
It was great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike. And I want to thank Wise Markets once again for putting this production on. They really support us, so please support them for supporting us. And we'll be back here in a couple of weeks speaking with another brewery here in Pennsylvania. Until then, cheers, PA.